Welcome back, everybody, to another vendor update here at All Things MSP. And of course, we have one of my favorite vendors of all time because I just think they've had an awesome set of circumstances and careers that and expansions that they've gone through. And they really do care about this industry. And what's really cool about what we're going to be talking about today is they've started something new that is completely for the benefit of this community. And so without further ado, let me bring up Heather Johnson from Gozynta. Hey, Heather.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. You know, for you guys, now for full transparency, because we are going to be talking about ethics today a little bit. For full transparency, Gozynta is a sponsor of All Things MSP, and we do appreciate that sponsorship. So, Heather, you guys have been doing a lot of great stuff lately, and you've got something new to share. But before we dive into that, because that's probably going to be the bulk of what we talk about today, let's do some updates. What are some updates on the existing programs? Like I know you were just coming out with the growth program the last time we spoke, and that's been out for several months, almost a year now. So, you know, what are some of the updates from Gozynta?
Yeah, we're really, really excited about the growth program. It is taking off. And in short, the growth program is kind of a comprehensive journey for an MSP to go on, to have a group of experts that are along with them the whole journey to growth, whatever that is, because you have to define that first, is what are you growing to? And then you're getting a C-suite of experts in your pocket. And as you coined it, Eric, that aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. So they'll set up your Connect Wise. They're there to talk to you when you need them, get things set up correctly for you so you see the right numbers, and then help you in making the right decisions. So helps with sales and marketing and HR and finance and service delivery, you name it. We're pretty much there to help you and have the experts and team. And what's great about that is if you have a problem down the line, and since we're backing up everything in process, we hope you don't have too many problems that happen. But if you have that emergency, you have a team of experts, of C-suites that know your business like their own and can help you make those tough decisions when you're there. So that's what I love about it. And our clients that are involved in it, our MSPs involved, are loving it. And we have some non-MSP clients as well now. So we do have some of the vendors for MSPs that are using us to build their own businesses. So it's been a very popular program, and we only have limited slots available because it is so all in and it takes so many of our resources. But they feel like our babies at this point, because they are kind of like, we treat them like our businesses and we're thinking about them all the time. So it's a great program.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you pointed out that these consultants, these people that you're using, this outsourced C-suite, are people who are not afraid to get their hands dirty, because so many times when you engage a consultancy, you're getting ideas and checklists and things that you should do, but they're not willing to actually get in there and do the work themselves. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it really does. And the other aspect of it, I've been doing a day-long strategy consulting with our growth clients. And what we're doing there is we're setting those goals, and then we're giving them to all of the experts in the team so they're continuing. So it's, you're making the goals and not setting them on a shelf, because we all know that happens.
Yeah.
But they're getting put right into your weekly meetings. And so you're constantly going towards those goals all the time, and everyone's on the same page. So instead of getting some marketing consulting here or a little bit of consulting there where you're getting advice, you're having a whole team that knows the plan and are all going forward the same direction. So it's working fantastic.
Awesome. And I can't wait to possibly hear some reviews, maybe do some interviews with some of your clients to see how that's working out.
Sounds great.
So you're also doing something very new, and that is the Gozynta Research Institute. And this is the part that I said in the beginning, in the intro, that this is more for the benefit of the community. Obviously, you're going to be doing things and having classes and courses, but I guess, first of all, why did you start Gozynta Research Institute?
Yeah. So when I was getting my MBA, I really loved case studies and I loved reading Harvard Business Reviews, and I continue to do so. I think it's fantastic. And I always try to then think about the case study in the lens of being an MSP, or how can we use that information in the field that we're in? And we have informally done this in some of our blog posts and articles, but then we thought, why don't we make this formal? Why don't we take studies that have been done in other industries and apply them to ours, and break it down so somebody doesn't have to read a 30-page case study. They can understand it and see it related into the MSP business model. So it breaks it down into kind of bite-sized chunks. We also want to start taking our own surveys and polls once we get a certain sample size, to be able to kind of look at the data and see what we can see ourselves from that. So that's probably, we're aiming to get to that in about a year as we ramp that up. But we're starting with the articles first and doing case studies of our own. And I think that's going to be fantastic. We're also launching courses that are based in academia and learning about businesses, and reading case studies together, learning how to read those case studies so people can get out there and find the joy of that, because it really is. It's not just because I'm a super nerd.
Well, there's a lot of those in this industry. And I think that's one of the things that makes us a little unique, because we do have these passions that are not always technical, right? Although you could say that taking a Harvard Business Review article and translating that into MSP relation is a technical task, because you are working with technical financial numbers, with processes, checklists, all that kind of stuff. Because I assume you've probably done some of these already as a little bit of a start. What is your favorite one so far? And give us a little bit of a hint of what it was about.
Well, one of the interesting ones that I love, one of my favorite things to look at was globalization, and taking large scale. A lot of times businesses take their exact business model and they throw it into another country thinking it's going to work, and it fails miserably. And they kind of scratch their head why, and maybe they'll just pull right back. But it's actually an opportunity to pivot. So, for example, Amazon took their well-known model and they threw it into India, and it didn't work right in India because they had a competing product there that was delivering books already. So instead, I mean, a lot of companies would have just said, let's just pull it back. Ooh, that didn't work. But they actually pivoted their business model to be cover bodegas, so little like convenience stores, and they
Mhm.
started helping delivery at those and making those more accessible to people. So Amazon there is very much different. It started in a different path. How does that relate to MSPs? Seems like way out there. But a lot of times when we maybe go to a different vertical and it doesn't work right away, that effort that's put in is immediately pulled back. So instead, maybe thinking about it and trying to figure out how could a business model be adapted based on some of our strengths in the skills that we've developed. For Amazon, it was the logistics. So how can we transfer that into an MSP business model so that they keep going forward and use their strengths in a different way than they have and traditionally?
And I'm glad that you brought up verticals as a part of that, because in terms of MSPs, very few MSPs are ever going to be global in scope.
Right.
That's much more common for a vendor. And I've actually seen that in the vendor space, because here vendors can more or less go direct to partners in the United States.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's been a little bit of a delay, and there are still a lot of distributors and VARs, especially in the non-English speaking countries of
Right.
Europe. And then you get to places like South America and things like that, and it's even more different or more skewed towards distributors. But in terms of MSP, I love that you brought up verticals, because that is a great example of how you translate that globalization difference to something just a little bit different that
Mhm.
applies to an MSP. Because an MSP going after doctors is different than an MSP going after the construction space.
Right.
The
Right.
model has to be a little bit different, because
Right.
there are different needs. and there's different maturity levels.
Yes. And there's also different language. There is a different
Yes.
language that you'd be speaking, and you need to speak that language. There is a talk that I did about me working at a nonprofit and an MSP selling to me, and I didn't know what they were talking about, what an MSP was. Everything they were trying to sell me didn't make sense to me. But when one MSP came in and told me they were nonprofit specialized, and started talking in the software and the language that I was talking about grants and MOUs, that was it. Like, I didn't care what they were doing. They were totally hired with me because they could speak my language. So it's an important part of that globalization versus vertical comparison.
Yeah. And I think that as we evolve as an industry to focus more on business outcomes
Mm,
for the client, I think that this type of information is even more relevant because we really need to be looking at the business outcome level rather than just the delivery of IT services.
right. Absolutely. Mm,
And I think that taking cases from other industries where they've already solved these problems, they've already dealt with that vertical, bringing that in and then applying it to the MSP world is just going to give MSPs a jump into that situation or into that vertical.
right. Right. And we're all getting inundated right now with blog posts that, I'm sure Chat GPT wrote a ton of them, but they're just kind of like, I think you should do this, and I think you should do this, and the best way to do this is this. What is it based on? So that's really what we're trying to get to, is making sure that every bit of advice that we give to MSPs has backing. It's not just Heather says you should do that. It
Right.
it has something that backs it up, that says this has been shown to work.
And that is so important. And that's the validity that you're bringing to this. You're taking, probably one of the most recognized names in the business world, the Harvard Business Review, and
Yep.
translating those types of stories to the MSP world. And that is the fact, backing that up is
Hmm.
that you're taking things that have already been done, already been proven, and applying them to the MSP world. And
Right.
yes, we're different, but the rest of the world is the same. MSPs are weird. We know that. We're different. But construction companies typically look like construction companies. Doctors' offices look like doctors' offices, and law offices look like law offices, and ad infinitum. And so if you can take that insight into that specific situation, because I don't want to call it just verticals, because it's more than just verticals,
Right.
but in those situations that you want to go out and have opportunity in, it allows you to take some known knowledge and now apply that to your strategy of how to reach out to that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan.
Did I steal all of?
No, 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 you got it. Yeah, totally understand it. And looking at, well, the MSP's own business model and seeing which are ways are to improve. One of the books I love is Business Model Generation, and all of our team members are going through an internal class with me right now, kind of looking at that and doing case studies and looking at how different businesses didn't just stay the same, but innovated and constantly innovated, and looked at the tools that they had, and looked at their offerings in different ways. And that's another thing that we're going to be bringing in is different um, building blocks, essentially, that you can look with and build, instead of just saying, oh, my business is fine as it is, it's making money, but constantly kind of innovating and see where you can tweak and get your team to look at things differently.
Yeah, because it's always changing, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I've been in this for what, 30 years now, probably longer. And, the amount that it's changed from when I started my first break fix business until now is huge. And so change is inevitable. So as a
Mhm.
business owner, you need to be looking at these things and deciding how they're going to affect your business and how you're going to modify your strategy. But you brought up something else that I really want to highlight, and that is training your people internally.
Yes.
because without that training, you're not going to have alignment. And to me, that's hugely important when we're talking about innovation, because you have to be bringing your team along with you, not dragging them.
Right.
There's a
Right.
difference.
Absolutely. And giving them a shared language to be able to discuss some of these things even moves that along as well. And we do try to do that within Gozynta is we have, weekly training session where we're looking at a business book, or we're looking at, you know, breaking down finances so everybody in our team understands what we're talking about at all times, not just the financial people. So giving everyone the tools to be able to make the decisions that they should be making. That's so helpful because not everyone's going to come in with all of that. So training our teams, especially at MSP, is so important because I heard once, somebody told me once, they're afraid of training because they're afraid the people will leave. But you'll have them and they'll be doing more for you. And goodness, if you train somebody and they go on and have an even more successful career, what an amazing thing that is. I just think that's fantastic. I would love for people to embrace more of that, because we should be all training our team and always encouraging and insisting on growth in our team members.
Yeah. I mean, there are too many reasons that an employee will leave that have nothing to do with the business, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
chances are you're going to lose employees, even if you do the perfect job as an
Right.
employer. However, if you keep them engaged, if you keep them trained, if you keep them growing and aligned with the business, while they are there, they are going to be more productive from every aspect. And
Yes.
that's what you want while they're there. And you can't control when they're not going to be there.
Right.
So, Heather, as part of this whole Gozynta Research Institute, you are coming up with these courses. And the first course that you're doing is on ethics. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and when it might be available?
Yeah, so it's ethics in the IT industry. It's a 6-week course. It starts January 30th and goes, for 6 weeks, Wednesdays at noon Eastern. I really enjoy ethics. A lot of people think it's black and white. I know I'm not supposed to do this, and they tell me I'm not supposed to do this, and it's so much more. Yes, there's those black and white things. You shouldn't kill somebody. Okay, we got that. But it's actually the gray items that require the ethics. And actually, ethics are different from many different topics. So you could have ethics for one topic, let's say environmentalism, that might be in opposition to maybe religious ethics. So it's very interesting, because that's where you're essentially learning how to build glasses. And I use this analogy because I think it really explains the need for this course. So you're learning the tips and tools for how to assess certain situations, because we can't cover every situation. You need to learn how to create this pair of glasses based on techniques and based on thinking about things yourself, about talking to other people, learning concepts, that you get a pair of glasses essentially, that when you get those gray areas, you have business ethics classes that you can pop on and you can say, okay, I think I understand what I'm supposed to do here. So at the end of the 6 weeks course, you're going to have your glasses, but also we're going to give you the tools you need to write your own business ethics for your company. So you're going to walk away with something, and we'll be kind of figuring out it all together, because it's a really, really great topic. Um, Even at the end of it, we're going to be looking more at some complicated issues like AI in business and automations, some of the issues that come up with that let's try on our glasses and let's have a conversation around this, because we're not all going to have the same viewpoints on it, but we'll have these glasses that everyone can have an ethical way forward that they feel comfortable with and can defend. So,
And I think that's a great way to look at it, because it kind of goes back to the old analogy of you can give a person a fish or you can teach them to fish. And I think in this situation where ethics do depend on the lens that you're looking at them through.
Yes.
And teaching people how to develop that lens rather than just giving them a rule book is a much better and forward thinking way of looking at this.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can get the list, but how do you believe in that list? It's just a list. So when you have your own way of being able to live it and be able to defend it and be able to speak about it, that's when it becomes you, and you can walk around proudly and say that I have a code of ethics and I live by it and I run my business by it.
Yeah, and I think you brought up two very important things. Number one is, if it's not in the rule book, you have to have those glasses to be able to make a reasonable decision on something that's not in the rule book. And then number two, you have to be able to defend it. And I think that's very important as part of your why, in
Right.
terms of your business.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, very excited about it. It'll be fun. We'll laugh. I'm a funny teacher most of the time, and we'll have a really great time kind of taking those issues and having a good time with it. I think people get worried about, when talking about ethics, that it's going to be shaming or saying you did something wrong, and that's not what this is. It's just trying to give people the tools they need to run a better business.
Yeah, exactly. So if people want to join that class, how do they sign up?
So I have a link that's down here, and you can click right there and sign up. The price for the course is $575, and there are limited places, so you want to get those sooner than later.
All right, Heather. Well, we really look forward to the stuff that's going to come out of the Gozynta Research Institute. Where can people get involved with the Gozynta Research Institute?
So that would be following us on socials, Gozynta. So www.gozynta.com is our blog. So following that is a great step. And then, on all socials, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook. I think those are our places, LinkedIn and Facebook. So follow us there. And I think we might be on Instagram, but I don't know what we're doing with pictures, but I'm not the social media person, but I see the little camera in my head. So I think we're there too. But yeah, and we put on a lot of blog posts. They're not all academic. Actually, just recently, I did a literary analysis of the monster at the end of the book, starring your lovable furry old friend Grover. And it was essentially why business owners are like Grover in that book, because we're scared of all the things that can happen, and it sometimes gives us decision paralysis, and we can't turn that page. We're so scared to turn that page. So it's kind of getting ourselves out of our own way so we can get to the end of that book. So,
which happens so often, especially with the prevalent ADHD that tends to be in this part of the industry.
Yes.
Well, if anybody's interested in Gozynta, you can always check out atmsp.link/Gozynta. Check out the growth program, check out all of the articles that they're putting out there, and of course, check out their other products as well. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.